Sublette County?
Well, yeah, I think it would have made a difference because I think that there was no question, obviously, hindsight, we know there was no question that there was really a problem. And Gary Ott was a tremendous person. I knew him personally and sad that he'd gotten to that point. But what do you do in those situations? It's very sensitive. And whatever statute we put in place to deal with that has to be, we have to be very careful and deliberate about what we do so we're not having the unintended consequences.
Is it important to get something done this session though, given what the county and everyone went through with that situation?
It highlights that we need to do something. I think these situations are rare, and so I don't see it as an absolute urgency. I would rather get it right than try to deal with it in an urgent, feel like there's an urgency when I don't think that there is an urgency.
When one gets down the road as far as Gary Ott did in his ability to run his office, I think, that's a point that the family should raise those issues, and if they can't address that issue, then probably there should be a political solution. But, my understanding is the office was being run very, very good. And there's a lot of offices that don't need an elected official necessarily to be in charge. If he's got a good staff and with the professionals that we have working in government. So it becomes a very big quandary on how do we deal with that and how do you remove one from office
That's elected by the people.
that's elected by the people. That's a heavy situation.
Yeah, very concerning for us. So measure twice and cut once.
And I think you heard that today in the debate on the floor, that there were those concerns and various concerns that are out there, and I think that'll continue as we debate the bill again tomorrow.
Other questions?
President Niederhauser, I'm looking forward to your toll roads bill in committee in a few hours. Do you want to talk about that, preview it a little bit?
I can give you a little bit of a preview. There are some misconceptions about the bill based on the email that I received. Two of the misconceptions are, one, that now we're going to have a lot of toll booths, and two, this is enabling tolling. This is now a bill that's going to enable tolling all over the state. Both of those are not true. We already have in statute the ability to toll. It's already there. And we toll already. There's the HOV lane, and I think there's a couple other instances where that statute's actually utilized. It's utilized rarely because we've been able to fund roads and do things with the gas tax, but with different types of vehicles coming, electric and otherwise, there's going to be a threshold where the gas tax becomes obsolete when you have a large part of your I hate to say fleet, but I guess the cars that people drive, when a lot of those become electric or some other type of fuel like hydrogen or some other thing that we don't even know about yet, there's got to be a way to pay for the roads, and everybody has to pay their part, and it should be based on your usage. So what this bill will pretty much in a nutshell, it will modernize the statute to give more leeway to UDOT and others that want to utilize that statute to electronically toll. Booths are a thing of the past, so we need to get that out of our minds that we're going to be stopping at booths. There's the technology that already exists to be able to toll electronically and do so very accurately. And then there's also, we have found in the current tolling statute that we need to make sure we're able to collect those tolls. And so there's some collection provisions in the bill.
are there certain roads or areas you're looking at? Are you looking to raise the toll in the HOV lanes or looking to put new tolls in new places?
The intent of me running the bill, which I usually don't run bills as the president, is it has some applicability for my district. Senate District 9, which includes Little Cottonwood Canyon. And the congestion that we're facing in Little Cottonwood Canyon, the parking problems there, and on a snow day, some of the traffic backs up into neighborhoods in Wasatch and 94 South, it's congestion like you've never seen before. So these are some issues that we need to address, and we need to incentivize people to get on a bus and carpool. It's the only solution for that canyon going forward. We cannot accept any more cars there. They're already parking alongside the road and sometimes in a dangerous way. This is, it's not gonna happen tomorrow, but over time, especially as we've appropriated money now to build the third lane up Little Cottonwood Canyon, which will be an HOV lane. That will be the time when now that policy is implemented. So I think that's probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 years away. And so that's my intent in running the bill, although the bill is broad. It doesn't specifically mention or is focused on any canyon, any place. It just gives, it's a modernization of the statute for UDOT mainly to utilize. But I'm running it because it affects my district.
But if the bill doesn't enable toll roads, you say that's already in the law, why run a bill? Why not just utilize the existing law to take care of this problem in your district?
Because of electronic tolling. Electronic tolling we needed to update the statute for that, giving it so that it can be utilized to its fullest. And also there was some collection issues that were important that they've discovered as we've implemented tolling before. And this hopefully addresses some of the problems we've discovered.
So this is basically an update to the existing tolling law that allows for the HOV lanes and all of that.
I think it was put in place around 2006.
It's actually, the statute gives broad powers to tolling, but has been used on a limited basis.
I think it was put in place 2005, 6, 7, that era. And I know it was there. We actually put together the policy when I was on the Transportation Commission. Legislature passed it back then. In fact, I live in Layton, and a lot of days I drive here on a toll road. I've got an express pass. I pop in it, and I guess pay the toll, whatever it is, and pop out of it if I want. So
I think as we take a look at the population growth, and I think the President brings up an interesting aspect, which is the canyon roads. If we take a look at Mill Creek, it was actually loved to death to the point that they instituted a toll road on that so people could get in and out and they could regulate that. And I think that has a lot of validity. I think what we need to do is make sure that as we move forward on toll roads, and I'm not a fan of toll roads, but I think we need to allow things. We've done that on the HOV lanes. We need to make sure that as we do that electronic, that we aren't disparaging against those who are driving, but yet may not have a credit card or a way to automatically pay for that. That has to be addressed, I think.
I'm not a fan of toll roads either. I'd rather, like most of us here in Utah, we'd rather drive on the roads for free, but that's not an option for us in the future. We have to somehow pay for this infrastructure. And I highlighted this yesterday, and I think the day before even. Think about what we're facing. If you've driven on any of our freeways in the last year, they are getting, the congestion has increased significantly. And it was about 6 months ago, it hit me that it's taken me almost 50% longer to get to anywhere, driving around the Salt Lake Valley and even into Utah County. And this is because of our growth. And we're gonna be doubling in population over the next 30 to 40 years. And this is on the heels of just investing billions and billions of dollars on road structure. After this huge investment that Utah's made into our roads, this is what we have today. So I think that is I think if that doesn't raise some eyebrows about the challenge that we face, it really should for people if you really think about it and if you're realistic about it. So maybe tolling isn't the answer for everything. And obviously, we're using it on a limited basis. But first of all, toll booths aren't going to work in this modern age, and there's technology that makes it so we don't have to have a toll booth. Because toll booths will only create more congestion. And, you know, if we're gonna have a toll, we ought to be able to collect it and not keep people's information for a long period of time. The information that we use to collect will be purged once the toll has been collected. This is not black helicopter, we're trying to keep your information for a long period of time. It's to affect the need to pay for infrastructure. And if you're using the roads, we believe, and I think most everybody would believe, if you really think about it and are realistic, you will know that, yeah, we should pay for the roads if we're using them.
I think we also need to put that emphasis as it takes longer to get places. We need to make sure that our mass transit systems are working and really serving people, not places.
The fiscal analyst has identified about $162 million in cuts from the base budget process. I know over in the House, leadership has urged their members to take those recommendations seriously because there's some reluctance to actually go ahead with those cuts. Has that same message been delivered to the members of the Senate who are in charge of those appropriations committees?
During caucus, we did talk about that in our Republican caucus, and Senator Stevenson and Jonathan Ball were there and talked about the budget and asked our caucus to look at those seriously also.
How close do you think that you're going to be able to get to that $162 million in identified cuts? Because there's some unpopular stuff in there.
I don't know if that's as important as looking at it and finding out what makes sense and what doesn't. If you're not going to be able to make a decision if you don't have the data. And to be able to have that data, I have total confidence in our committees and those on those appropriations committees, they'll look and make good decisions. I think looking at it's a real positive thing.
I think looking at our budget structure, our tax policies and everything else, very important to keep an eye on and to think about how we can make government work better. And if it means cutting in areas, I think as we look at the subcommittees that are meeting right now, if we're discussing those issues, then I believe in the long term, we're going to listen on the Executive Appropriations Committee to what their recommendations are coming back to us. If
So
they find a reason to cut, then there's no reason for us not to approve it.
This is very healthy,
Yeah.
extremely healthy. And I encourage it completely to look into our base budgets. And I've never been a big fan, and still not a big fan. I realize that there's some positives to it, but I think it's mostly negative, that we even pass a base budget. I'd rather have the whole budget open to debate until we pass a final budget. And in essence, we can, but we kind of take it off the table when we pass our base budget. So the questions that can be asked, even with tax increases, there'll be limited amounts of funds. There'll be more requests always, no matter how much money we extract through taxes, there'll always be more requests than we have money for. And it's our job as elected officials then to prioritize those and balance those in a political process. And so we know that certain programs become outdated and the outcomes sometimes aren't what they could be, and there are other programs that could replace them with better outcomes. And repurposing those funds is our job. And to spend those in the most efficient way and in a way that gets the best outcomes possible. And so I know that we get a lot of criticism for digging into the base budget, but folks, that's our job. And I'm glad that we're actually digging into those, asking the hard questions of existing programs and seeing where there is some repurposing of funds. And in the words of W. Edwards Deming, you know, if you don't like change, you don't have to be relevant. We have to change, we have to have outcomes, and we live in a world right now with technology, a world of disruption, and there are ways to do things a lot better. So that's what we're looking at.
Isn't though cutting the base budgets or looking at cuts in the base budget just kind of an exercise? Because even once a base budget is passed, you have the option, especially after you see the February numbers, of going back and restoring funds or going back and making further changes, maybe even cutting and
We can do that, but it's a
rewriting.
psychology issue. I think it's more psychological once it's at least perceived off the table.
And I've seen some committees where they've made some significant changes, and they've actually repurposed money, taken their existing budget and spent it elsewhere, and changed programs. I mean, it's not always the case, but it does happen, and in fact, it does happen, it's worthwhile. And I can actually remember one year that was way before we had base budgets, back when I was in the House, that we had a tough time getting a budget. And we just about adjourned without a budget. And so having the base budget has its purpose too. And so there are reasons for it. It's surely not just an exercise.
And just to be clear, what's this based on, the number that you're looking at, in possible cuts? What is that based on? In past years, it's been a percentage or?
This was actually on the fiscal analyst looking at different programs. And
We
so-
asked them to dig in and
Say-
find some programs that they have a feeling about, because they really know what's out there, and here's some possible areas that we can address.
And they may be very valid, but let's just make sure they are. I'm not saying they are or not.
And remember,
where's the
those
list of-
those are suggested cuts. I don't think executive appropriations really
They're not
is
even
not.
they're not even
No.
suggesting cuts.
No, they aren't.
They're not even suggesting cuts.
Let's talk about it.
We asked them to go find some programs that we ought to look at.
I think
And there's a bill coming, Fossen,
Yeah.
zero-based budget bill, where it would require us to dig into 20% of the budget every year. I support that concept.
Suggested review is a better word probably.
Where's the list of things that are up for, or targeted for review as part of this? Where's that list available so the public can?
Oof.
I'm sure it's on Colby, or it's on the website, so we'll just have
It
to
is
tell
on
you
the
where, I'm
website?
sure.
Yeah, it is, it's available.
I know Jonathan Bowell enough, it's there, okay?
I think the one thing is we may be able to clarify that better when the Executive Appropriations Committee meets to raise that question and have that brought forward.
But that's not.
Thanks for
So
that
for-
question.
Well, that'll be,
We'll get you the information.
I appreciate the question and having faith enough in us to know those website addresses.
We know it's
But,
there.
It's changed.
But
I
I'm
can't
sorry
find
to
things now.
disappoint you, I don't know where that website address
We'll
is.
become relevant if we can deal with the disruption.
Any other questions? Anything from,
We probably.
I'd just say, I have all the faith in the world in our president, and I'm sure he's on the right track.
And a lot of
Thank you,
different-
Pete.
Senator Knudsen,
Sorry to
what part of the budget are you looking at? Being rewarded by?
We probably need to.
Any other questions? All right, thanks everyone for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good discussion, thank you.
Let's go meet with the mayors, huh?